This is Join Us in France, episode 478. Bonjour, I'm Annie Sargent, and Join Us in France is the podcast where we take a journey through the beauty, culture, and flavors of France. I just changed it. Do you like it? I think it's good, right? Today, I bring you a trip report with Gregg Rutter about being a flâneur in France, enjoying photography museums, and generally taking it easy. And he also took a photography tour, so we'll talk about that. I know a lot of you only come in France once or twice in your life. Perhaps you can't stay very long because of work life, etc. So you pack it in and you go fast. But there are so many of you who come repeatedly and can take it a bit easier. So why not? Mind you, Gregg didn't get bored at any time. It's about finding a balance between seeing it all and enjoying it all. This podcast is supported by donors and listeners who buy my tours and services, including my itinerary consult service, my GPS self-guided tours of Paris on the Voice Map app, or take a day trip with me around the Southwest in my electric car. You can browse all of that at my boutique, joinusinfrance.com/boutique. There are 3 spots left for the boot camp in May 2024. The idea is that you come to Toulouse on May 10th, 2024, hang out with Elise and I, as well as a group of wonderful fellow listeners. There's going to be 40 of us maximum. We stay together for 10 days. And in that time, you'll improve your French with the language classes in the morning and visits in the afternoon. We had such a good time in May 2023 that we want to do it again. And we have 6 or 7 repeat boot campers. I can't remember, but we have several. It's a great way to visit France, and they want to do it again. And we're thrilled to have them again. If you're interested, go to joinusinfrance.com/boutique, where you can read all the details and reserve your spot now. But they're almost gone, so don't wait too long. For the magazine part of the podcast, after my chat with Gregg, I'll tell you about the first restaurant in France and how the word restaurant came about. Bonjour, Gregg Rutter, and welcome to Join Us in France.
Oh, bonjour, Annie. So happy to be here.
Wonderful to talk to you. You had a lovely trip in France with your daughter, so she's in her early 40s and you're in your middle 60s.
Well, that's a kind thing to say, yes.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about the trip, when it took place, why you came to Paris, and all of that.
Yes, I was in Paris from June 1st to June 18th, 2023. And I had been wanting to go to France for quite some time and actually had a trip planned back in 2020 with a friend that, COVID happened. And plus she had ovarian cancer and is no longer. But
dear. I'm sorry.
That was my plan. And then I found this photography workshop with somebody who I'd been working with a little bit online, Serge Ramelli, and I signed up for it. And so the whole thing started with the photography workshop. And that was the first week when I was in France and really Paris.
I guess you got started in Paris with a guide because the whole time you were with Serge, so he...
Yes, that's correct. So then one thing led to another, and I, of course, extended the trip. My daughter, Amelia, wanted to join me, so that was wonderful to have her come, and I prepared a lot for it. I started taking French language classes at Alliance Française in Minneapolis.
Nice.
About a year ago, so the preceding fall, and that helped a lot to show that I was willing to try to speak a little bit of French when I was there.
Wonderful. And also it probably gave you confidence also.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But the whole focus of the trip was to learn some photography skills and to photograph Paris, one of the great photographic destinations of the world. So
fantastic. And then we did a itinerary planning session together. So we had talked about all the places you might consider going.
Right. One of the big things that helped that was, this was for the second week, I already kind of had the lay of the land from being there for a week.
Sure.
And staying right in a great location at the Citadines Hotel right near Pont, Neuf. And your advice to stay in one area every day and just do all the activities in that area was kind of how that week was structured. And it made all the difference. We still walked about almost 30,000 steps a day.
Wow, you're strong, man.
But so we picked out museums or monuments to visit in that area and did your walking tours every day, which were something we just really looked forward to. Yeah, and that was the structure of the trip.
And you got to know Paris quite well. I mean, obviously, you did quite a lot.
We did do a lot. And it was, action-packed, a lot of stuff. It was not stressful, but it was a lot. And I would like to come back and probably just ramp it down a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you've seen all the biggies now, probably.
Right. That's right. Yeah. So I've been there, done that. Now I'd like to kind of maybe focus a little and go a little bit more in depth in some of the things.
So tell me a little bit about the photography workshop, because I've never been on a photography workshop. I have some ideas of how it works, but tell me how it's structured, what you did.
So the structure is, and this is true, I think, with a lot of photography workshops, and I've been on others, it's early morning and late at night, because you want to get the sunrise and the sunset, the blue hour, the golden hour times around the sunrise and sunset, because that's when the light is the best. During the day, not so much. If there were photographs during the day, usually I'd turn them to black and white photos. It's one of Serge's sayings is, if the color's not right, go black and white. And so that is
I like it.
Pretty good advice. So we'd get up, go out, do photography, and then the mornings were free after that, which I spent that time just kind of wandering around and exploring things by happenstance, which was wonderful. I found so many great things. And then the afternoons were workshop, kind of in a classroom setting at the hotel, where we would work with Lightroom on the computers and process photos. And he would give a lesson, and then we would all go out for dinner together and then do photography in the evening.
Very nice.
And they were very, very full days and not, minimal sleep.
So you have to get up early and go to bed fairly late for a photography workshop. Yeah.
Yep.
So if you don't nap during the day,
Right. The morning would be the time to take a nap if you wanted one. And some, just kind of a little bit of downtime was perfect. So
yes, you rank your photography, it looks to me like top of your list of your favorite things you did on this tour. Right.
Yeah. And I got some great photos. So mission accomplished.
Excellent. What camera did you bring? Let's geek out a tiny bit.
I brought two cameras. I brought a Fuji X-H2, which is a high resolution mirrorless camera with interchangeable lenses, of course. And so I, could use whatever lens I wanted. And then I brought a Leica Q2, which is a smaller camera with a fixed lens, but takes amazing photos. So the Leica was a great one to walk around with. And that's the one that I used a lot more during the week when Amelia was with me.
Yeah, you didn't want to carry everything around, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, of course, a tripod, because if you're shooting in the morning or at night, it's dark and you need to have a longer exposure.
Yes, and obviously for that sort of work, you need quite a bit of equipment if you want to, set things up just right, just so. And yeah, it makes sense. But the fixed lens is good because you can let your feet do the focusing. You can just move back or go close or whatever. And usually for cityscapes, fixed lens works pretty well.
Yeah, and it's a fairly, I think it's a 24, maybe a 28 millimeter.
So lens, a little bit wide, yeah.
It's a little bit wider, so.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. And then I had Amelia along, so she could be my little Sherpa. She was happy to carry things for me, so.
That's good. All right, what else did you enjoy on this trip? Perhaps your second best, or?
Well, of course, the museums. We both love going to see all the art and the museums. So like I said before, focus our time in an area where like the museums were. The day that we did the Eiffel Tower, that was near the Rodin Museum.
Yeah.
And so we worked all that in together. And we had tickets to go to the top of the Eiffel Tower. But on the way there, we got a text message saying, we're sorry, but we can't take you to the top of the Eiffel Tower today because they're doing maintenance or something on the elevators.
Ah, okay. So how did that work out? Did they refund the money?
Yeah, they just refunded. I got the tickets right through the official Eiffel Tower website. Those things happened. And it was still really busy. We did your tour, of course, there.
Yeah.
Walked around the tower, and there's still a lot of people. And I think we could have walked up, but I didn't feel like walking up, so we didn't.
Yeah, that's a lot of steps. It's fine. It's fine, but it's a lot of steps.
And when you're in the, you go up the Eiffel Tower, you still can't see the Eiffel Tower.
That's true. But so was it your first time in Paris, or had you been to Paris before?
I was in Paris in 1978. So it was a long, long, long time ago. So it was kind of new. It was all new to me. I looked at some of the photographs I took back in 1978, and that was fun to see how much things are the same.
Yeah.
But I don't really, I didn't have a good recollection of being there before.
Yeah. Well, of course. Yeah. Years go by and you forget, obviously. That's just how life works, I think. That's how life works.
One of our favorite museums was on the last day, we went to the Picasso Museum.
Ah.
We both just loved that. And of course, it was during the 50th anniversary of his death. And so they special exhibits set up for that. And the building that it's in is very interesting. And
yeah, it's a beautiful museum, and it's right there in the Marais. It's easy to get to. But the problem with the Marais is that there are so many great museums. Which one do you pick? If you're only going to spend a day or two, you have the Picasso, which is great. You have the Pompidou, which is also great. But that one is going to close. I think it's scheduled to close after the Olympics for renovations.
Been a long time, right?
Yeah, well, they say it's for 4 years, but I don't think it's going to be just 4 years. It's probably going to be longer than that. So the Pompidou, you have the Chasse et Nature Museum. So that's a private museum, but it's very good. You have the Carnavalet Museum, obviously. Did you make it to the Carnavalet or not?
No.
That one is a favorite of mine. It's a museum of the history of the city of Paris.
Yes.
So it's for history geeks. If you don't know anything about the history of the city of Paris, it's still a beautiful museum. You have this gorgeous entrance. You have a lovely cafe. It's a lovely setting. But of course, all the displays are probably not going to speak to you as much as they do to somebody who knows the history of the city. But it's a fun one. You have the Shoah Museum there. You have another, I can't remember what the exact name of the museum is, but there's a museum to the kind of Jewish history in that area. Anyway, there's a lot of them. And you could spend a week in the Marais just going from museum to museum and not get bored. But that's Paris for you. There's always more that you could be doing.
Well, I will be back.
That's good. You list also the Musée d'Orsay as a favorite.
Yes. Of course, that was a favorite. It had just the building, and the architecture was so interesting. And there was the Degas Manet exhibit there when we were there.
That's right. There's a special exhibit that was going on, yeah.
We loved that. We ate there, thought the food was really good. They seated us right beneath the big clock.
Yes.
It was great. It was like, wow, we lucked out. We got the best seat in the house. And then all Impressionism wing, I guess, or floor, that was a favorite.
Yes. There are 2 restaurants in the Orsay Museum, plus several places where you can get a snack or a drink. I think it's called Café Campas, the one with the clock. It's very nice because, obviously, a massive clock that everybody knows about is right there. So, yeah, it's very fun. Looks like you made it to the Fondation Louis Vuitton. What was that like? Oh,
that was fabulous. I have a background in architecture, so I was seeing the Frank Gehry building, and it was amazing. I wouldn't have gone there without your recommendation, I don't think. So it was great. Loved it.
I wonder why. Why wouldn't you have gone there?
It wouldn't have been on my radar. It just, probably just would have escaped my notice. It's a little out of town.
A little bit.
Not that bad at all.
Yeah.
it was gorgeous. I mean, walked around that, I don't know, if, like in a place where you bring kids with the rides and stuff.
Yes, yes. There's the Jardin d'Acclimatation next to it. Yes, yes.
So it's fun. Beautiful, beautiful area.
Yes, it's a very peaceful part of Paris. If it's not too hot, which we're recording this on a very hot day for both you and me, so heat is on my mind. But if it's not too hot, it's a really nice, fun place to go, I think. And the museum is stunning. I don't know how he pulled this off. I have no idea, but it stands there and it's glorious.
It is totally glorious. And we were the first to, we had the earliest tickets available. So there weren't other people. I mean, we were one of the first people in. And then by the end, there was a lot more people there. But it's nice to be in these places where it's not so busy.
Very nice. Musée Rodin was one of your favorites. Are you always a fan of Rodin, or was this just a special?
I am, and so is Amelia. And I'd also been to, there's another significant Rodin museum in Philadelphia that I had been to, I forget, fairly recently. And so it was fun to compare the two.
Tell us, well, what's different and similar?
Well, it's similar in that they're both in these interesting buildings, the standalone buildings, and the entire museum is really devoted to Rodin. There's not other exhibits there.
Mm-hmm.
And the one in Philadelphia was very nice, but the one in Paris, of course, was larger, as you would expect. Yeah, it was great.
A good place to go.
The way everything was exhibited was nice. We saw one or two groups of school kids that were all sitting around on the floor in a big circle learning about Rodin. And so that was fun to see. And the gardens there, of course, are gorgeous.
Yes.
It was just a wonderful thing. I think that was the same. We also that day walked around and went to 3 fromageries.
Aha.
And that was fun to see how the cheeses are sold in Paris.
Yes. Yes. I like to tell people that they could easily go on a self-guided tour, food tour in Paris, just by going to several cheese shops and ask for your favorite type of cheese. So if you like goat cheese, just say, do you have a great goat cheese that I could try?
Right.
And they will sell you one, and then you go to a different one and you ask them for their best goat cheese and see what they sell you. And it's pretty good to do it that way because you can try different things. I would be shocked if they all had the same favorite.
I would too.
Because we have so many.
Yeah, and everybody was so friendly and helpful, and we ended up buying more than we should have and had a dinner picnic in the back at the hotel that night.
Right, because at the Citadines, you have a tiny kitchen in most of the rooms, right? I mean, it's not big. I've stayed there. It's a very small kitchen, but you have a small little fridge and a little hot plate, and, you can cut your bread and prepare a plate and stuff. So it's not bad, yeah. It's a pretty good place. It's not the cheapest place in Paris, but I think for families, it's good because you can have kind of a 2-bedroom setup, or at least a bedroom and a sofa or something.
Yeah, and the location can't be beat.
Yeah, the location is perfect. It's really central. And they're very helpful with, if you need a taxi, you just tell them, can you call me a taxi? 2 minutes later, there's the taxi. They're very professional. And the coffee's in the lobby.
Oh, the coffee was tremendous. They did arrange for our taxi to the airport when we were leaving, but we found that taking the metro was the best way to go.
To go to the airport?
Oh, to get around town.
Yeah. It's fast. I prefer the bus, but I'm never in a hurry. And I know that people in Paris, they just want to get places. So they're not patient enough for the bus. Yeah. But for me, it works, so that's just me. So to go back to our idea of a self-guided food tour, try some yogurts as well. Like we have so many kinds of yogurts in France. So just try some that you don't recognize, just to see what they're like. You could do the same with cold cuts. We have all sorts of cold cuts. If you eat meat, vegetables, we have fantastic fruits and vegetables in season, obviously. If you come in February, it's not quite as good as August, but, that's how you can do it.
And the smoked salmon was everywhere.
Oh, yes.
And we both love that. So we got some of that along with the cheese.
Yeah. Excellent. So you also enjoyed the Musée du Louvre. What was that? What was your visit like?
Well, on the photography side, we went there at sunset to get photos of the courtyard. And actually, we went on a Monday. I think it was a Monday, maybe Tuesday, but the day that the museum's closed.
Yes, that would be a Tuesday.
That was on purpose, so there weren't as many people around.
Yeah.
So we got good photography at sunset there. And then when went back with Amelia and went through the Louvre, we never saw any paintings. We just did the sculptures.
Oh.
It's so huge. And we going to all the other museums, we're looking at a lot of paintings already. So we skipped the paintings and just focused on the sculptures. And also went down below to see the history of the Louvre.
Oh, yes.
Where they have the old, like the moat, like walking where the moat was for the old palace. That was really interesting.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, and the Louvre is so big.
I would highly recommend that. And all the Egyptian stuff was interesting to see, of course.
So the last museum that you listed was the Musée de l'Orangerie, which is a favorite for a lot of people. Why did you like it so much?
Well, I like the way that it was laid out. It was small, smaller than a lot of them. And the way that it took you through all the different works kind of, in a just thoughtful way, easily digestible.
Yeah, it's not that big. It's really a good size.
So I love all the artwork in there. It's not a good place for the cafe. The food isn't so hot.
It's very basic. So did your daughter tend to agree with you on favorite museums, or was she?
Yeah, I think the Orangerie, she was maybe a little bit museumed out at that point, but she did. Yeah, she loves museums. We love doing this kind of stuff together.
You must be pretty close that you came on a trip like this. That's great.
Right. Yeah. We tend to do a lot of stuff like that.
That's fantastic. So one of the things you listed was café croissant du matin and l'apéro. So tell me about those.
Just to sit at the sidewalk cafes and enjoy your café crème et croissant in the morning is just like heaven. And then every afternoon, you just go. And then in the afternoon, it's like, it kind of pooped out and it's warmer in the afternoon. So it's time to take a rest. So we just would find a place to stop and have a cure or a Campari spritz or something and just relax a little bit, watch the people go by.
And I think that's what a lot of people say they want to do, but I'm afraid that a lot of them don't allow enough time for that. But that's great that you did. Yeah. Did you particularly research specific cafes, or did you just go wherever looked good?
We went just wherever it looked good. First, I was, familiar with a Café Fleur.
Yes. Café de Fleur, yeah.
Le Deux Magots.
Yeah, Les Deux Magots, yeah. Those are all right next to each other, Saint-Germain-des-Près.
They're right next to each other. So we, I walked past them and looked at them, but we didn't go there.
Uh-huh.
So
yeah.
Everybody else went there. But it's like you can hardly go wrong.
Yeah, and that's what I try to tell people, but sometimes they don't believe me. They think they have to have a Z recommendation to end all recommendations.
All the cafes are great. All the little bistros are wonderful. I didn't make any reservations for dinner, with one exception. I guess we called ahead at one place that we had walked past earlier, a small little oyster place. But they could always, even if they're busy, they would find a table for us. So we didn't have any.
Yeah, with 2 people, it's easier than with 12 people, obviously. If you have a big group, you need to plan these things. If it's just 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, it's usually okay. And you do have a list of places that you enjoyed. There's quite a few, though.
Quite a few.
Yeah. You want to tell us a little bit about those?
The first day that I arrived in Paris, of course, you get into the airport at like 8 o'clock in the morning and get to the hotel. They store the luggage, but then you have all day to walk around, and you're also tired from an all overnight thing, but also kind of have a lot of energy for being there for the first time. But I found this place. It's over near Shakespeare and Company, over in that area, Ostra Paris. And it was a just recently opened little oyster bar. It was really good. So I would recommend that. And of course, I'm excited to be there and trying out my French on the poor waitress. And I said, I bet you're tired of people practicing their French. And she goes, no, I love it. So another oyster bar that was a small little one is called Opium La Cabane, Rue Dauphine. That was another favorite place. That was if you like oysters. So
yeah, I do like oysters.
And then we also had, on your recommendation, we went to Vent de Pyrénées.
Ah, yeah, Vent des Pyrénées, yes. What did you think of that?
Oh, that was maybe my favorite dinner of the whole trip was there. Was really, really good. Food was great. Then upstairs there was like a bar, kind of, but we didn't go there, but it looked really interesting. And they said, come back tomorrow night. There's live music, which we didn't make it to it, but that was a favorite. I would definitely go back there again. So.
Yeah. So that's in the Marais area. And it's one where I've eaten, and they do classic French food. It's very good. The food is very good. And it's mostly locals. But of course, now that I talk about it, who knows who's going to go? I'm sending the riffraff, and I. Just kidding.
We took a side trip during the photo workshop week to Mont Saint-Michel. And on the way back, we went to Saint Malo and ate at a crêperie and had buckwheat crepes.
Les galettes.
Are really good. And they are kind of famous there.
Yes.
So that's what I had. And they were, oh my gosh, they were so good. So that was fun.
Yes, it's funny. So my daughter is staying with us for a few days because it's so hot here in Toulouse that she's a climate refugee, I call it. Because we have AC and she doesn't where she lives. And I made some galette at home one night, and I made one too many. And so we put that in the fridge. And the next morning I woke up and I was like, I just want to eat that galette for breakfast. And you know what? It was good. It's even good for breakfast. Yeah. So there you go. You list a couple of restaurants that are famous, like Au Vieux Paris d'Arcole. That one you get to if you walk my Ile de la Cité tour. It's a really pretty place. You see it on Instagram all the time because there's the flowers outside and it's just gorgeous.
It is a gorgeous place.
But was the food good?
Yeah, it was okay.
It's okay. Okay.
I mean,
it's prettier than you go for the pretties.
Right. I love that area. Is that on the Ile de Saint Louis? Or no,
No, it's Ile de la Cité. That one's on Ile de la Cité. Okay. It's really a stone's throw away from Notre Dame Cathedral.
Okay, yeah. It was really fun. And fun people watching.
Yes. Yes, it would be. And then you list one that I've never eaten, Le Consulat. That's in Montmartre. It's a famous one. I mean,
it's a famous one. I think everybody would recognize the building. The food was remarkably good.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, that was for lunch. And we were there with Amelia's friend who lives in Amsterdam came to visit. So there was the three of us. I felt lucky we got a table right away, which was
excellent. Sometimes it works out, Sometimes it works out. Yeah, the other ones that you listed, I don't... Le Mabillon, Boulevard Saint-Germain. Yes, that one I've been to as well. But there's so many restaurants in Paris. Don't make yourself crazy picking restaurants. Just go with the flow. It'll be fine.
I agree. I mean, this list I sent is obviously not every place we went, but it's a long list.
Yeah.
And I thought they were all good.
Yeah. What do you think of the prices in Paris? Did it seem expensive or did it seem fair?
I think it seemed fair.
Uh-huh. Not bad. Yeah.
Remarkable. There wasn't anything that was like where we went. Nothing was like way too expensive. I don't think it was really inexpensive either. I thought it was just kind of like right in there. So
yeah. All right.
Well, one place for food that I wish I had tried earlier was Odette.
The puffs.
Right. Oh my gosh, they were so good. If I had known, I would have been going every day. So
Yes, on my Latin Quarter tour, you get to Odette at the beginning of the walk. It's dangerous. It's dangerous, but it's really good, isn't
Right.
it?
It's really, really good.
Yeah, that's a delicious thing. So tell me a little bit about what you learned about France on this trip. Good advice that you would share with other people.
It was really helpful for me to do some reading ahead of time and looking at the maps to see where everything was and to read about the history of Paris helped me appreciate things a lot more, where I could place them in time. So I would recommend that. I gave a list of some books that
oh, good.
You could include.
Yes.
And I think staying where we stayed was also really helpful because, boy, you just walk out the door and you could just say, well, which do I want to go, right or left or straight? It's all good. So it's every place I went, everything was wonderful.
Yes.
And even just on that, like I said, in the workshop week in the mornings, I would just wander about and come across fun things. Like close by was the place where Picasso painted Guernica. That was fun to see. There was what's called the Beat Hotel, where the Beat writers from the United States in the 1950s stayed. And I was really fascinated with that. A Salvador Dali sundial that was up on the side of a building. So stuff like that, or just like stumble across it.
That's cool. Yeah. And you mentioned in your document that you felt safe the entire trip. Like Paris is not a scary place, is it?
Not at all. Not in the least. So, I was a little bit nervous, and I think a lot of people are, as far as, what the safety aspect, and you hear all about the, pickpockets and stuff like that. If you just pay attention, be aware of what's around you and pay attention, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful place. Always felt.
Yeah. So it is a problem because some people are so gobsmacked by just the surroundings. They are distracted. And the pickpockets are very good about making you feel sorry for them. So they approach you and they ask you for help, or they ask you a simple question like, do you speak English? And they appear to want to be your friend. And it's human nature not to be rough with these people. Mm-hmm. But you don't need to be rough. You just need to keep walking. Say no, keep walking.
Just walking by, yeah.
Yeah, just walk on by and mind your phone. Because your phone is what they want most. Because they can resell that very easily.
Yeah, so no issues there at all.
You also mentioned the traffic signals and to stay on the sidewalk. That's a biggie. That's a big safety item because, again, you get looking around and you don't even realize you're in the middle of the street all of a sudden.
That's true, yeah. Pedestrians don't necessarily have the right of way.
Yeah, that's true, unfortunately. They should, but, people are trying to get somewhere. And the bikes in Paris, it's out of control. Lots of bikes everywhere, right?
And the motorcycles drive like crazy.
Yeah, so you need to keep your wits about you. And before you step onto any road, look both ways. Be kind of, because you don't want to twist your ankle and break something and end up in the hospital,
Other advice, if you're taking pictures, would be to get up early and go out before the city really wakes up. We got pictures at the Trocadero of the Eiffel Tower with nobody there because we were there super early at sunrise. Kind of hard to motivate yourself to get up and out of bed at that hour, but once you're there, it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, Trocadero. I always tell people, if you're going to walk my Eiffel Tower tour, go within 10 minutes of sunrise, and you have about 40 minutes of beautiful light. And as you walk down, you'll find all these beautiful places and you have great shots of the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, so many wonderful places. So carry a extra SD card with you. So if yours fills up in camera, you can quickly replace it. We went to Père Lachaise Cemetery.
Yes.
And I did not bring my extra SD card. So I learned my lesson.
Yeah. Well, perhaps you could take some photos with your phone as well.
I did. So that's exactly what I did. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not ideal, but it can be done. Lots of people just have a phone these days and it works fine. They get great photos. I mean, sometimes you luck out with a phone.
Sometimes you get better photos. Yeah.
It happens. It happens. Those phones, they can do dark, like in a church. If you don't have a tripod and so forth, it's going to be hard to get a good shot. With a phone, usually you get something, It's not ideal, but you get something. Did you make any mistakes on this trip that you want to warn people about?
Well, the big it really wasn't a big deal, but I exchanged money for euros at the airport, and I got more than I needed. I didn't need as many euros as I thought I would.
Yeah.
Everything is so easy to do with a credit card. And then the exchange rate at the airport was not great.
Yes.
That's the big mistake I made.
I recommend people do not get any cash at the airport, because whether you go to an exchange booth or use the ATMs at the airport, they have very high minimums, and you're going to end up with more cash than you know what to do with. Because honestly, you can pay with your credit cards, contactless especially, goes everywhere. And if you have an iPhone, you could set up Apple Pay or Google Pay, and it's like everywhere. They take it everywhere. You don't need to worry about anything.
That's right. That's how I paid for everything. And now I have euros at my house I can use next time.
Sure. And if you do want some cash, it is better to get it at an ATM in the city. So you go to one of the big banks, BNP or something, and you just withdraw at one of the ATMs, because sure, your bank might charge you a couple of dollars fee because you're using a foreign ATM, but you can get 40 euros, which is likely all you're going to use the whole time you're there, and you'll be good to go.
Yeah, I did pay the taxi drivers between the airport and the hotel both ways in cash.
Ah, you're a nice man. I just tell them, shove it. I have a credit card, nothing else. I really like your list of books that you recommend. Let's read through that. It's Paris the Novel by Edward Rutherford.
Yes, and that was fun because there was somebody on the photo workshop that had also read that, and so we could talk about that. I would really recommend that. It's a fun book, and it bounces around time-wise, but there's a thread through there. It's a historical fiction, so didn't really happen, but a lot of it did happen. So you learn a lot in that.
That's cool. The 7 Ages of Paris by Alistair Horan. I have not read that.
Well, again, that goes way back to the beginning of Paris. That's more anchored in just a history kind of a book. But again, I thought it was really interesting.
Then you have 2 books by Sue Rowe, In Montmartre, In Montparnasse.
Yes, those
mysteries?
No, those are about art. So it's about the art scene. In Montmartre, that would be the first one. And then from there, all the whole art scene kind of moved to Montparnasse. And so it kind of follows that and the artists that are in there. And
then you list The Paris Bookseller by Carrie Mayer, and she was on the podcast talking about her book as well. Can't remember what it was, 371 perhaps. It was one of the 370 episodes.
Okay. Boy, I recommend that book to everybody. That it's all about the writing scene.
Yeah, it's a good book. It's a good book. Oh, and then older books, My Life in France by Julia Child and Alex Prudhomme.
Yeah. How can we not go to France and not think about Julia Child?
Of course. And A Movable Feast by Ernest Hemingway, a classic. Fantastic. Awesome. Yeah, these are all good books.
Yeah, they're all easy to get through. And I think they're all available in Audible audiobooks.
Yeah.
As well.
So now to close, you say you loved my voice map tour, so I want you to sell them for me. What did you like about them?
Well, having Annie in your ear is the best thing because you're so full of kind of wit and have a nice sense of humor. And it took us to places that were off the beaten path in these areas. We see things and learn about stuff that would have escaped us otherwise. There was 2 of us, Amelia and myself, and she had one earbud and I had the other one. And so we just listened to it, the one phone, and it worked out great. A lot of information, and they were nice length tours. I liked that. And the fact that you could kind of like turn it off and go sit down at a cafe if you wanted, or go and spend some time in one of the sites that we walk past, and then turn it back on and pick it up.
I think that's the best part about it. The app
Yeah.
makes it easy. It's easy to find your way around. You're not lost. You feel like you're following a narrative like you
Right.
discover this neighborhood is the idea.
Yeah. And so that was a lot to do, but it gave us a structure every day. And we stayed in the one area for the whole day. And then one of the anchors of that was your walking tour.
I absolutely think you should not zoom around from one area to the other. You're just wasting your time in the metro. And trust me, the Paris metro is not that fun. I mean, it'll get you places, but there are many, many things that you could do besides spending time in the metro. And the last thing I'm seeing is get your tickets ahead of time for museums and monuments. That is true for a lot of places, especially the Louvre, Orsay, the big ones like that. You really need to. And if you're going in the summer or in the high months, I guess it's May through October these days. There's lots of people. Then do get your tickets in advance.
Yep. And I think if we had such good luck early in the day where there weren't quite as many people there. Mm-hmm. But the Louvre was still packed. I mean, a lot of people. I don't think you can avoid that.
Yeah, it's just popular. Yeah, it's just popular.
Every other museum I thought was pretty reasonable as far as number of people are concerned. And the monument, we went to the Pantheon, and that handled people really well there. We went up to the top, and great view, great cityscape view there. We went to the top of the Arc de Triomphe.
Nice.
And again, great views.
Yeah. So you didn't get to the top of the Eiffel Tower, but you went to plenty of nice views.
Right. Yes.
You didn't miss out. You did great.
I think so.
Fantastic. Well, Gregg, we've been talking a long time, but thank you so much for talking to me. I hope you come back to France and take it easy. Be more of a flâneur, even more of a flâneur next time, which I think you did good.
I will be back. There's no question.
Merci beaucoup, Gregg.
Oh, merci. Au revoir.
Au revoir. Again, I want to thank my patrons for giving back and supporting the show. Patrons get several exclusive rewards for doing that. You can see them at patreon.com/join us. That's Patreon, join us, no spaces or dashes. Thank you all for supporting the show. Some of you have been doing it for many years. You are wonderful. And a shout out this week to a new patron, Lori Belinsky. It is wonderful to have you on board in the community of Francophiles who keep this podcast going. This week I published a French history brief about Victor Lenoir. Does that name ring a bell for you? If you visited Père Lachaise in Paris, you probably saw his grave, as it is one of the most visited graves in this world-famous cemetery. Who was he? Why do people still visit him in great numbers in Paris? It's all explained in the French history brief, exclusive content for patrons. Again, to join this wonderful community and enjoy all the extra content, go to patreon.com/join us. And to support Elise, go to patreon.com/EliseArt, ELYSART. And I'm working towards doing a regular video reward with Elise. We've done it a few times in the past, but whenever I ask her, shall we record a video for our patrons today? She usually comes back with something like, my roots are showing, or my eyes are puffy, or my office is a mess. So I'm working on her. But she needs reassurance that nobody cares, right? I mean, will you think less of her if her eyes are a little puffy? I hope not. Otherwise, what is wrong with you? For me, I know that nobody follows this channel for my wonderful looks. You know the saying, come as you are, applies to my outlook on life. I strive to accept everyone, including myself, as we are. And yes, now you can start singing the Nirvana song. My thanks also to Maris Russo for your one-time donation using the green button on any page on Join Us in France that says, Tip your guide. Maris wrote, Thank you for all you do, Annie, to enrich our travels. My pleasure, and thank you for giving back, Maris. If you enjoy the podcast and would like to keep it going for another 10 years, keep this small business happy and thriving by using my tours and services. You can go to joinusinfrance.com/boutique to see all of them. Now, right now on that page, you will see the sign-up page for the bootcamp 2024, but it's not going to be there much longer. The link to reserve an itinerary planning session, a link to get audio tours where you get your listener discounts. Those are my tours of Paris on the Voice Map app, and also the sign-up page for day trips around the Southwest with me in my lovely electric car. There's also links to get my cookbook, Join Us at the Table, and also a link to my favorite travel-related products on Amazon, where if you start your shopping from that page and you buy anything at all, it doesn't have to be anything I recommend, I get a small commission. And it does not cost you a penny more. That's the beauty of it. It's win-win. Plus, I recommend some things on that page that can really make your trip easier. Let's talk about the first restaurant in France and about the word restaurant. A restaurant is a place where we eat, right? Well, you see, originally, it's a present participle like eating, devouring, lunching, feasting. And in French, present participles end in ant, like mangeant, dévorant, déjeunant, se régalant. So, the word restaurant is a French present participle. Today, restaurants are everywhere, from fast food to Michelin stars. But they haven't always existed. And the first to have the idea of selling dishes to be consumed on the spot, at a table, after having chosen them from a menu, that was Monsieur Mathurin Rose de Choiseul. And he did this in Paris in 1765. And this business, he did not call it a restaurant because the word did not exist. He called it a maison de santé, so house of health. And in the maison de santé, you would enjoy a bouillon restaurant, a broth that would restore your health, or at least restore you to a state where you're not hungry anymore. Now, in English, the word restore is written with an O and restaurant with an AU, but they are the same thing. In French, we did not change the spelling to an O, so to restore a piece of art is spelled the same as restaurant with AU. But even with the spelling change in English, it's not hard to understand that restore and restaurant are cousins. So going from bouillon restaurant to a restaurant, a place where you can sit down and order food, happened quite quickly. And it spread all over the world. Many languages use the word restaurant. In Italian, it's ristorante. In Albanian, it's something like a restaurant. In Danish, it's restaurant. In Spanish, ristorante. In Turkish, it's restaurant. In short, it's a present participle that has become a common noun and has proliferated everywhere in the world. And we still have restaurants called bouillon restaurants in France, especially in Paris. But that's a story for another day. My thanks to podcast editors Anne and Christian Kotovan, who produce the transcripts and make the podcast sound good. Next week, it's going to be the 10th anniversary of the podcast. So Elise and I recorded a special episode answering questions from all of you. And we reveal many of the things that we normally don't talk about on the podcast. I hope you'll participate by listening, reacting, and sharing the episode. This is a huge life milestone for me because producing a podcast for 10 years it's not something one does casually. So I give it my all for 10 years and it's been wonderful. Thank you very much for listening and I hope you join me next time so we can look around France together. Au revoir. The Join Us in France Travel podcast is written, hosted, and produced by Annie Sargent and copyright 2024 by Addicted to France. It is released under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license.